Hello and welcome back to another episode of the EFL Fantasy Podcast. My name is Jamie.
My name is Angus.
My name is Dan.
You are listening to part 3 of our Championship 2023 to 2024 season. I always get mixed up, I always forget what year we're in. Hopefully you've enjoyed part 1 and part 2 and found it insightful or even helpful in any kind of way. That'd be great. If that is the case, please do give it a like, a share, subscribe to the channel and all that kind of stuff. We can get
5 stars.
five
Five
stars,
stars.
yes, we want 5 stars. Thought I'd get that out the way at the beginning. But yeah, we'll get straight into it then. Last
Yeah.
8 teams to preview. Some big ones in here for you, so make sure you stay to the end. And Dan, I'm going to come straight to you first, and we're going to go to one of the promoted sides. It is Sheffield Wednesday, who finished third last year in League One, going up via the playoffs. Who has given us the information for the Owls?
Yeah, so it's Heskabo.
Yes, FPL Escobar. Okay,
Yeah.
key outgoings, what have we got?
I said none from the playing staff. The biggest one is probably Darren Moore. Obviously, they sacked their manager after he gained them promotion, which is always a bit strange.
What about key incomings?
So Munoz, the manager, obviously got Watford promoted a couple of 2 or 3 years ago now. They have signed on a permanent Reece James.
From Chelsea.
Paul, well, they wish, I think. Paul Valentine, who's a right back. Juan Delgado, who's another right back. And Ashley Fletcher, forward on loan from Watford.
Okay, and what's their likely lineup / formation?
Yeah, so he's not entirely sure of the formation because obviously the squad has been built with Darren Moore to play 3-5-2, but Munoz likes a 4-2-3-1. So he's done a lineup in 3-5-2. Dawson in goal, Ifora, Heckway and James as centre backs, with Palmer at right wing back, Johnson left wing back, with Byers, Folks, Bannon in midfield, with Windass and Smith up front. This information was provided before a couple of the two right back signings, so maybe there's a slight difference.
Okay, and where's Hesco got Sheffield Wednesday to finish?
19th.
19th, okay. Best Gaffr asset?
He's put Bannon and Windass, which isn't surprising really. They're probably the two key assets in the game from Sheffield Wednesday.
Okay, and the budget assets?
He's put Palmer, 4.5 defender. I think he can play right wing back or right centre back, but he's been there so long, he's guaranteed it a game, to be honest.
Okay, then lastly, under the radar assets?
He didn't really put in. He didn't put one, so I'm guessing there's none under the radar.
Right, okay, let's get into it then. And I'm quite interested for this because my knowledge on Sheffield Wednesday is very close to zero, other than Bannon and Windass, really, and a few who were there a couple of years ago. My knowledge is limited. So we're saying Dawson and goal then, 4.5.
Yeah, Dawson in goal.
So that's straightforward then. This defence then, obviously, Hasbro's give us a back five. They could potentially play a back four. They're all valued at 4.5 million, other than Firmino at 4. Who would you two say are the key ones, and whether they play in a 5 or a 4?
It's tricky, isn't it? Because I don't really know the two signings that they made, Delgado and Valentin. So it's a bit up in the air. Luton did play him, and Delgado did play yesterday. I think he played on the right, so maybe he's going to be right wing back. Iorfa's been quite highly rated for a while, so I'm guessing he'll definitely play, but he's a centre back, and yeah, it's a bit hard really because we don't know if it's four at the back, then I'm probably not that interested. But if it's wing backs, then maybe Delgado could be quite attacking.
Did they play back 5 or 4 against you yesterday?
It was five,
It was a
but I don't know whether it's they just tried to match us up because Luton were playing a back five.
right. Okay, and Angus, do you think there's any value in that defence? You know, would you be looking at a budget Sheffield Wednesday defender to start the season?
Not initially for me, but the main one that I'll have eyes on is Delgado.
Right. Okay. Midfield then. Obviously, we know about Barry Bannon, 6.5, same price as Windass. You've then got Johnson at 6, and then the rest 5.5 of buyers, and then 5s and 4.5s. And we'll start with Bannon, Angus. Is he an option?
I think he has to be. We saw even 2 years ago when they were in the division. He did reasonably well then. And when we talk about things like talisman and sort of main creative players for teams and that sort of thing, key passes, assists, etc., it is Barry Bannon. He covers all of that. So I do think I wouldn't necessarily start with him, but there will be times where he will very much be an option. Yeah.
Now, you know what my memory's like. It's absolutely horrendous. So, 2 years ago when they were in the league, Bannon was obviously in the Gaffr game. How did he do over a season, like
I
points
knew you were going
wise?
to ask that, and I'm frantically looking it up. As soon as you started saying it, I was like, "Oh God, now he's going to ask."
But without knowing like the exact points that he scored, can you remember though if he was much of an asset? Because I can't really recall him
I
in
mean, I
Gaffr
remember owning
terms.
him, but that's about as much as I can give you.
What do you think about Bannon, Dan? Good option.
Yeah, I think he's one of these where he's going to be on everything, in isn't he? All the set pieces and everything. So yeah, it's hard because I watched them obviously against Luton yesterday, and they weren't up to much, but they were playing against a Premier League side, so I don't know whether that's fair to judge them. Um, but yeah, I think at times Bannon could be an option if they get a nice run.
See, before we did Luke's like the pod with Luke, I'd have probably written Bannon off as an asset. I know he's on set pieces and stuff like that, so now I realise, more bonus, but 6.5 million for a centre midfielder, that's the thing that puts me off from a promoted side as well. So when you've got someone like Loser at Watford, who you spoke highly about, at 7 million, I'd personally rather go and spend the extra zero point 0.5. But I think for me, it's a wait and see. Is he a better option than Windass at the same price? Because obviously we know he's more attacking, can play up front.
I think, to be honest, this is where Windass might gain a bit on him because Windass is going to be playing further forward and is more likely to get attacking returns. I think, given that in a lot of games you're like, how much will Sheffield Wednesday, have more of the ball, create more chances, which is what Banner needs both for his returns and for the bonus. If he's not going to be sort of doing the things that get the bonus, is Josh Windass, who's more likely to be higher, getting shots, potentially getting returns, actually going to be a better asset for them, which is where I think, it might well come down to that.
Okay, Dan, is there any of the other midfielders, could they put their hand up for replacing your team?
Maybe Patterson, just because he's one of them who can play anywhere.
Is
I
that
know
Patterson who's
times
beat
last,
Cardiff?
Yeah.
yeah, I know
Yeah.
sometimes last season he played up front, and he's 5 million. So I'm not sure if he starts every week though. But if he if they have like an injury crisis and he ends up playing up front or something, it might not be the worst 5 million player in the game.
No, and I think even though I know he's played right back or right wing back as well at times through his career, so even if he was playing there, if they do play a back five, there's more chance of him getting attacking returns from playing there rather than in a midfield three as well. So yeah, he's worth looking at. Up front, then you've mentioned Smith. They've also got Lee Gregory and Fletcher at 6 million. Assets or not?
Not for me. Maybe Smith might be at times. I'm not a particularly big fan of Ashley Fletcher, but maybe he can do a decent job for them. That remains to be seen. Lee Gregory, not for me either. But
I've seen Lee Gregory play week in, week out for us, and yeah, I wouldn't go there. Smith, who's Smith?
Smith.
Was he at Rotherham?
Big Smith.
Yeah.
Okay.
He did also take the penalty yesterday, so, and obviously Bannon was on the pitch, so that might be something to note.
I think it's one of them where we wait a couple of weeks. He's at 6 million, which isn't a bad price. But from the other teams that we've previewed, we've seen some good value forwards at 6 million, haven't we? Like Semedo stands out at Sunderland at that price. So yeah, I think that's a wait and see. So just to summarise Sheffield Wednesday, we're saying Windass and Bannon is the best assets midfield, and potentially Delgado if you wanted to get a cheap defender in there.
Yeah, I've just had a quick look in terms of their returns. It was actually 2020, 2021, so 3 years ago that they were in the division, but I just had a quick look for their returns. Bannon, it was only 2 goals, 5 assists, but I think he might have been better for bonus, as we've sort of discussed. Windass had 9 goals, 6 assists in a team that got relegated, so it suggests that there's... So that if he can replicate that sort of thing, that speaks to what we're saying in terms of he could still be a decent option.
Okay, right then we'll move on to the next team then, and that is QPR. Angus, I'll be coming to you for this one. So last season, obviously disappointing season despite being top at the beginning, ended up finishing 20th. Who has given us the information on this?
Chris Hermitage.
Okay. Just before we carry on, if people are wondering why the bookies' predictions aren't on there, it's because when I was doing it earlier on, they've changed quite dramatically since doing part 1 and 2. So it was stupid because some teams were predicted to finish 18th, and it was like only one team can. So I just removed them for this episode. So Chris has given us the information. Who are the key outgoings?
So there's 2 main ones. Seny Dieng, who we obviously talked about in part 2, went to Middlesbrough, and Rob Dickey, who we've mentioned previously, went to Bristol City.
Yes.
He said they needed the money and it got a bit less than 3 million combined for them, which I think in terms of contract situations limited how much they could get for both of them. And they both had down years last year, which sort of lowered what QPR could get for them. Dickey didn't suit the Ainsworth style, is the other thing Chris has said, so he thinks that's an easier one to recover from.
Because I thought Dickey was going to be the next one to move up into the Premier League, 2 seasons ago.
Yeah.
I think they were valuing him at over 10 million at the time, so it's not very good, is it, the business-wise there, but what can you do? What about the incomings, and have they brought anyone in?
So they brought in Asmir Begovic to be a goalkeeper. They brought in Paul Smith, who will start on the right wing, and they brought Ziad Larkesh in, who's a backup left back.
Okay, are they all the incomings so far?
I did double check, but I think that's everything so far.
Okay. What is going to be the likely lineup / formation?
So likely formation is 4-2-3-1.
Okay.
Begovic in goal.
Yeah.
Right to left, Kakai, Dunn, Clark, Salter, and Powell. Midfield 2 are Field and Dazelle. Smith, Willock, and Chair behind Lyndon Dykes.
Right, okay. And what's Chris's predicted league finish?
21st.
Oh, wow.
And he said, so we survive, just very doom and gloom right now.
Not a good sound to be a QPR fan by the sounds of it.
He also made an effort, I'll just throw it in here,
Yeah.
in terms of, he said it a bit more on the style. He said Ainsworth is making a big effort to say they won't just be a hoofball team like Wickham. And he still wants to build around Chair and Willock, and apparently seems confident that they will stay. He said the approach will change, somewhat depending on the game, which it didn't with the previous managers. So that part he's a little bit happier with.
Okay. Who's he got is for the best Gaffr assets?
Ilias Chair.
Yeah, obvious. Budget asset.
Kakai is a 4.0 starting defender.
Yeah, okay. And under the radar assets.
He's put Smith, who's a mid at 5.5. Said he scored some great goals last season and won't be scared to shoot. And he also said should be putting lots of crosses in for Dykes as well.
Right, perfect. Right, let's dive into QPR then. So we know Asmir Begovic is going to be the number one, isn't he? So a Dieng replacement at 4.5, which I don't think is that bad. If you want to go down that 4.5 route. Defence. So us three actually spoke about QPR, didn't we, after we finished recording?
Yeah.
Part 2. So we're saying Kakai, 4 million, right back. Clark, Salter and Dunn, but Dunn is actually injured. He went off injured against
Yeah,
Oxford,
so this was obviously before their friendly on, was it Saturday?
Yeah.
Where Dunn went off injured. I'm not sure who would come in at centre-back, whether that means the mighty Morgan Fox might play centre-back.
Ah, yes, Morgan Fox. There's a possibility, isn't it? Because he could play
Yeah.
centre-back then. And then Pal, he's at left-back, but he's 0.5 more, he's 5 million. We had a good start last year, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Dan, talk to me about this defence and what your thoughts from Gaffr point of view.
First, it's going to be a bit ropey, I think, isn't it? Especially if they don't bring in a right back. I've never been a massive fan of Kai. I like Powell. I had him a number of times. Well, definitely early on. I had him for so long just because I didn't want to take him out because I had other things to do. But he stayed in my team for probably about 10 weeks. Yeah, if they could get Dunn and Clark Salter out, it's not terrible. And Fox is all right, but yeah, I'm not sure if he's great in the back four. But yeah, they conceded a lot of goals last year, and I'll be amazed if they don't do similar this year. If that's the back four they start with.
So Paolo at 5 million. Are we writing him off as too expensive for this QPR defence?
Yeah, so unless they strengthen, Chris did say they're looking for a right back and another centre back, but until those players arrive, I'm not paying 5 million for a QPR defender.
No. What about Kakai though? I know we don't rate him really as a player, but he is a 4 million starting defender. Would you, turn your nose up at that for people if they were after that fifth defender?
No, I think it's one of those things we've talked about with the 4.5 mids about if your plan is just to bench that player, like if you're never going to play 5 at the back unless you're playing like part of the bus or whatever, if otherwise you're never going to play 5 at the back, then Kakai being someone on your bench who is going to play isn't the worst sort of strategy. I'd possibly still look away from him, but if you're trying to get up to some of these premiums and you need to find that saving, having a 4.0 defender on your bench who is playing, I guess is worthwhile.
No, I agree with you, but my personal opinion on it is there's so much value in defenders in this game.
Yeah.
I
wouldn't do it.
I'm probably going to start the season with 5 defenders.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't do myself. Midfield then. So Sam Field's gone up to 5 million this year, so he's not that great bench option. He'll play with Dozel though. potentially, who is a 4.5 million midfielder. Could he be that third sub?
Not for me.
No?
Given that what Chris said about how actively they're trying to get someone to partner field, I think that suggests it's a transfer waiting to happen, which, as we had talked about when we've talked about other 4.5 mids, you don't want to be swapping that player.
True, very good. Right, the exciting ones now then, the front four and away. I'm going to start with Smith, 5.5. Where has he come from? Is he Leighton Orient? Or have I made that up?
Yeah, Leighton Orient.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know nothing about him, so I'm hoping that you're going to tell me something positive about him, Dan.
Yeah, he's a winger. He done quite well at the start of last season. And then when Leighton Orient sort of stumbled a little bit, I think he ended the second half of the season with just one goal. Yeah, I think it's okay at 5.5 if QPR look fairly attacking and he's first choice. It might not be a terrible option, but it's hard to go for him really.
Yeah, you definitely haven't sold that one for me, I'll be honest. Right, the two exciting ones, probably go down in the Gaffr Hall of Fame, really, from over the last few years. Willock first, he's come in at 7 million this year. We know he struggled with injuries last year, so he didn't really hit his full best, but the season before he was unbelievable value. Before I ask you about these, Angus, I was scrolling through Twitter today and I've come across a QPR page who did their predicted 11, and they did not have Chair and Willock in because they're under the impression that these two just can't play together. I don't know how true that is. I don't watch QPR enough to have an opinion on that, but surely not. He had Chair not playing, I think. And I'm thinking, you can't not play Chair, surely. Your face says it all, Angus.
I realise for the audio that's terrible, but
Yeah.
that sort of threw me slightly. I can somewhat see the argument in this system about them not necessarily being able to play together because they want to occupy, I think, similar areas of the pitch. So I think I can understand to a degree if there's going to be another player in the attack, like in that sort of 4-2-3-1 system, if there's another winger, then Chair and Willock do probably want to occupy much the same position. So I do understand that argument. But I think in that case, it seems mad to say, but Willock is probably the one I'd be more likely to leave out and use sort of off the bench or, potentially up front at times or as the other winger at times, that sort of thing.
Yeah, Dan, what about you?
Yeah, well, when you're struggling for goals and you got 2 years ago two of the best midfielders in the league and you're debating about not playing them, it sounds a bit ludicrous to me, to be honest.
Yeah, no, when I saw it, I was shocked. But I think he did. I was reading the comments, of the outrage from other QPR fans, and there was a lot of comments where they do believe Chair will go this summer if that bid does come in for him, which I tend to agree. If they're struggling for money as it is, and they haven't recouped much from Dickey and Dieng, if they could get I don't know how much they'd value Matt, but I'm going to guess something around close to 10 million, maybe. I think he might go, but 7 million for Willock, 8.5 for Chair, in a struggling QPR side, would you pays?
Not initially. I think Chair showed, even when they were poor last year, that at times he can still, produce in terms of bonus and that sort of thing. So I'm more inclined to think at the moment that he will still manage to be an option at times, but particularly initially, I'd want to see sort of, how they're going to play, how bad is it going to be, uh, you know, because particularly defensively, I think we're going to be targeting them. So, are we really going to want attacking players from the team that we're going to be targeting? Probably not.
Yeah, an 8.5 for Chair. Obviously, we know his potential in the game, but
Yeah.
it's a bit on the pricey side for me to jump in. He'd have to reproduce, his numbers from the last couple of seasons for me to want to go there. And then the last one I want to talk about is Dykes, He's come in at 7 million. I'm going to have to go to you, Angus, on this one because I know how much you love Dykes.
Yeah. I mean, he's great.
Just that's it.
I,
He's great.
yeah, yeah. I think he's one of these. I saw someone refer to him today as the actually as the Scottish Juba, who's the Russian striker who's like shit domestically, but then does really well for Russia whenever he plays. And I don't think Dykes is quite that bad, but there is an element of that. If I think he does do better for Scotland than he does for like QPR. I think he will be an option at times, particularly like if this is going to be a system that like has, the ball being delivered into the box. Talking about the likes of Smith looking to cross the ball in, that is what you want to hear when you're looking at Lyndon Dykes. So I think there might be times when he's an option. I think at the moment it's just enough at 7 million that you'd want to hold off and get a look at them before you went in.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's definitely potential there for him to be an asset, and definitely at 7 million. So, yeah, it's wait and see. I don't think I could go anywhere near this QPR side until I have a good look at him over a couple of weeks. Dan, any final thoughts on QPR before we move on?
No, they're a massive avoid at the minute for me.
Okay, well, I'm going to come to you now anyway, Dan, with Rotherham. They finished last season
Yep.
19th. Who's give us the information on Rotherham?
Yeah, so it's a podcast called New York Talk.
Okay.
It's like a Rotherham podcast.
Okay, perfect. Key outgoings then for Rotherham.
Bene, obviously one of the hottest free agents, went to Luton Town.
You can't just say
this
that he
season.
left to Luton, can you? He's got to be hottest free agent.
He was incredible, best player in the league. Now he's at Premier League Luton.
Yeah, Benny. Yeah, carry on, Dan.
Wes Harding, who's joined Millwall. They lost Josh Vickers to Derby. Richard Wood dropped down the leagues to Doncaster. Connor Washington's gone to Derby. And then they lost Peter Chioso's gone to Peterborough. They then lost some on loans like Fosu and players like that. So they've lost quite surprisingly more than I thought when I was looking through the squads.
What about key incomings then?
Yeah, so Cafu, the centre mid from Forest. Grant Hall made his move permanent from Middlesbrough. Dylan Phillips, goalie, and Fred Onyedinma on loan from Luton. Good right wing back.
Yeah, any more?
And another Dexter Lembiskia, a young wing back. From Wolves.
If there's any listeners or watchers who are watching this for the first ever time, if you didn't know, Dan is a Luton fan. You'd never have guessed this, but I just thought I'd put that out there. What's the likely lineup for Rotherham?
Yeah, so he wasn't sure whether it will be 4-3-3 or 3-5-2. He's put it as a 3-5-2. Let me just get it up.
Well prepared, Dan.
Yeah, sorry, it's on another bit. Obviously, Victor in goal, probably the best goalie in the league, probably last year. Humphreys, Morrison, Blackett as centre backs. Fred Onyedinma right wing back. Bramall left wing back. Cafu, Rathbone, and Wiles as centre mids. He's got Hugo up front. He thinks a new striker will be coming in because they're a bit light up front. They do have Kelly, who's done, I think, quite well in pre-season, but I think they'll probably be after a new striker.
Okay, and what's their predicted league finish?
19th.
19th, okay. Best Gaffr assets?
So he put Jordan Hugel,
Yeah.
which he's the goal scorer, right?
No, we joke about him, but for a Rotherham side at six
He's
million, he's a good
yeah, he's going to be the main
investment.
man, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously Jordan Hugel.
Um, Budget.
He's picked Ollie Rathbone. He's more of a defensive mid, but I think he'll play most games. I think it was 5 million. I
Yeah,
think.
5 million
Yeah,
midfielder. Yeah.
I can see why he's picked him.
Okay, and then under the radar.
He's picked Ben Wiles. I think we never saw the best of Ben Wiles. He got a long-term injury at the beginning of the season, but he's a box-to-box midfielder who I think, for that reason, could go under the radar. 5.5 million.
Right. Okay. Right. Let's get into the team then. So we know Victor Johansson is going to be the number one. Um, Such a shame he's 5 million. He had to be after last season, but if he was 4.5 still, I'd I'd probably go down that route. I know Diang's at Middlesbrough.
Question: if he was 4.5 and Dieng, who you guys go with? I know it doesn't really matter.
I'd go with Johansson.
Yeah,
I
Hansen.
think I would as well.
Yeah, it's a shame he's 5 million, but rightly so. The defence then, so obviously those guys are predicting a back three or five, however you want to say it. Blackett, Morrison, and who was it, centre back?
Humphreys.
Humphreys. And then who were the wing backs?
Uh,
Bramall and
Fred on your Fred Onyedinma is going to come in as a midfielder though,
that's a
because they
shame.
might play wingers. He's going to come in at 5.5 midfielder.
Okay, so they're all at 4.5 anyway, other than Boa and McCart, who are 4. So you're not really going to go for the centre back. So Bramall at 4.5. Do you think it could be an option? Is he the best asset if you were going to go there defensively?
I think so. There is that Lembiscio. I think might, if they go to 4 at the back, he might play right back. If they play more of a 4-3-3 with Fred Onyedinma will probably play winger.
What about Morris and Angus? Will he score 10 headed goals from corners this season?
11.
11. Now, it is generally though. Do you think he struggled with injuries a lot, hasn't he, since at the end of his Cardiff career
Yeah.
and then going to Rotherham? Do you think it could be an option just for that set piece threat?
I'd want to see him sort of get in the team and be able to play regularly before I went there. If he can if he can play regularly, because particularly at his age, coming off a torn ACL, I'd want to see that he could sort of play regularly. If he can, I think he has still got that set piece threat. He's still big,
Yeah.
so he could be an option at that point.
Okay. Midfield, I'll be honest, I don't really like. The most expensive is Wales at 5.5. The rest of them are 5, and Adufin's at 4.5. Is there anyone there with Wild talking about, do you think, or not?
I don't think Fred Onyedinma has been mentioned enough already.
Yeah, he's an option.
What price is he coming in at, Dan?
5.5.
5.5. So again, he's joint with Wales. Not really anything there, is there? If we're honest.
I think the closest would be Onyedinma, genuinely, because we saw, not talking about player ability, but just in terms of in the system, Ogbene and Fosu both do well for them last season at times, and so I think if someone is stepping into that role, there's at least theoretically an avenue to points there. So it's something that I would want to see whether that translates across players or whether it was just those two particular players before I went there. But potentially something there, I think.
Okay, and then lastly, then Jordan Hugo. I know we've just mentioned him briefly, but I generally do think at 6 million, he could become one of the best 6 million forwards, because a lot of people will be looking for that 6 million forward as an enabler. And we've mentioned Semedo, I think, just off the top of my head, I know Liam Delap 6.
Broadhead.
Broadhead, yeah, we spoke about them. but Hugo is the talisman now. He's the main focal point of this attack, isn't he? So, if you got a goal notification, say Rotherham has scored, you automatically go, is it Hugo, wouldn't you? Or is that just me?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I mean, we joke about him at times, but I do think, he's not as bad as we say, or I've said at times. He is a bit of a figure of fun, but, there's something to him. I mean, he's even looking at the early fixtures, there could be some joy there. He plays against Stoke, who have, two centre-backs. He's got Blackburn, could have some joy there. Sunderland, again, depending on the fitness of their centre-backs. I mean, I think there's potentially some joy there. I'd want to probably wait and see, and look to go for him perhaps at a good run. But I do think that he might well be sort of, when we're looking for Rotherham, whether it's with a double or a good fixture run, I think Hugo will get to the point where it's like, oh yeah, we're looking at him.
Yeah, and I think it depends how you set up your team. If you've gone for two more expensive forwards and then the one enabler, they've got Leicester there in the first four. If you've gone down that route, you can easily bench him, can't you, for that one?
Yeah.
You've then got Norwich after, which it might be a tougher fixture on paper, but
Former club.
Exactly, he's going to be up for that one. So I'm talking myself into buying him here at the moment. I really am, because I've got Semedo at the moment, who we've already discussed with Sunderland. And yes, he's had a good pre-season. He does look good. But he's unproven in this league, where Jordan Hugo is proven in this league. So, yeah, I might have just talked myself into a Rotherham player, which I wasn't expecting to do on this podcast, I'll be honest. But we will move on before I end up getting on triple Rotherham. And then we go into, my club, Stoke, and This is you, Angus.
Yeah.
So, last season finished 16th. Who have we got the information from?
So it's Every Step Along the Way podcast.
Yes, it's basically Stoke's main podcast. Key outgoings, Angus. This is really weird, me asking these questions about my team. But I want to get from an unback, like you hear my views on Stoke all the time. So I just want to get someone else's perspective who watches them just as much as me.
So they said not many, if any, key players have bit the dust in their Potters careers this summer. But we have had a mass clear out throughout the club, both first team and academy players and coaches, backroom staff, and in various departments and roles around the club. Morgan Fox for the minutes he played last season, and Nick Powell for his undoubted ability, even if somewhat hampered by fitness issues, are the two departures that catch the eye. I think somewhat is doing a lot of work there.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. And then we got this information today, so it will be quite up to date. Key incomings, because there's been a lot this week.
So time will tell with a lot of these, but Mark Travers seems a really solid addition in key position we desperately needed to improve on. A potentially complete new top front three will need time to settle, but could be exciting to watch. So that's obviously Chiquinho, Wesley, and
then
Ryan. I'm just going to say May, but because I don't know what the pronunciation is, so I'm just going to go with May for now.
Yeah, no, I'll go with that. That's fine. Has he put any more key incomings?
Not there, but obviously we could talk about Hoover's come back on loan. He was there on loan second half of last season. Ben Pearson, I think, has come back as well, hasn't he?
Pearson's back, yeah.
And Daniel Johnson
from Preston. So, yeah, quite a lot of incomings this summer. What have they got as their likely lineup/formation?
So they've said 4-3-3.
Yeah.
And the lineup, at least initially, expect to be Travers in goal, right to left, Hoover, Wilmot, Rose, Timon, midfield three of Laurent, Pearson, and Johnson, the front three of Chiquinho, Wesley, and Campbell.
Yeah, and where have they predicted to finish?
Higher than the boring, mundane 14th to 16th we appear to have occupied for as long as I can remember. Top 10 should be expected, and I think we can push for the playoffs. Going to say we sneak sixth.
Ooh, bit of optimism. There hasn't been many of them, has there? I saw that in the
No,
PL chat earlier on. A
yeah,
lot of people are just saying mid-table to be safe.
yeah.
No, I like that. Best Gaffr assets?
Best Gaffr asset. This is Keanu Hoover. Scores and assists very well for a right back. Tyrese Campbell topped both goals and assists for us last season and looks sharp in pre-season. So expect him to have a good campaign again.
Budget assets?
Chiquinho, for a 6.5 midfielder, has the potential to be a very high scorer versus cost. Coming back from a serious knee injury, but Wolves fans were fuming that they'd allowed him to go out on loan, and he's looked lively in pre-season.
Okay, and then under the radar assets?
Said Emre Tezgel is 17 and a star in the making. Whether his time comes this season remains to be seen with the signings we've made recently. But if he can force his way into the squad and then the side, he could be a bargain, 5 million forward.
Brilliant. Right, let's get into the team then. So we know Travers has come in from Bournemouth.
Yeah.
He's gone in at 5 million, so he's going to be the number one. We're not going to spend 5 million there, unfortunately, on a Stoke keeper, are we?
No, unfortunately not. Although he is another one. I was talking about a couple of keepers today. He's another one that, particularly when it comes around to doubles or Jeeps keepers or that sort of thing, that he will be sort of on the list of keepers. I've got an eye on for that sort of thing.
Yeah. Defence, Dan. We've obviously got Hoover at right backs come in. Tom Edwards has left to Huddersfield, so I think they'll be looking for a right back. As it stands, it's Wilmot and Rose as the centre backs, and then I think it's 50-50 on Timon and Stevens for left back. Any assets in there? I'll just go. Hoover's 5-5, Timon and Wilmot, Stevens and Rose are all 5. So any assets you would consider or think potentially would be good assets?
I think both fullbacks could be an option. Hoover, I'd more lean to Timon if he ever got back to any sort of form, or if he was nailed at first choice. Because I was one of those that got, what's it, 16 point, or he got a game week 2 or 3 last week. He done nothing else though the rest of the season, but yeah, I think. Sorry, Jay.
No, I was going to interrupt you. Then carry on.
Yeah, I think Hoover was just ridiculously attacking. He can't defend, but just going forward it's entertaining to watch anyway.
No, I agree. Hoover. I was watching the friendly against Everton yesterday, and they had a free kick, and someone lost the man at the back post, and they nearly scored. And I was like, well, I'm not going to. I nearly swore then. I won't swear in case anyone's listening with the kids or whatever. Who's that? Hoover's lost his man, and then they showed a replay, and it was Josh Lawrence. I was like, oh, okay, my bad. I'll let him off. No, very attacking. So in terms of Gaffr, I'm just a bit disappointed he's 5-5, just because, if Timon's nailed, you're going to go there. Now, I did say if Timon played against Everton, he's going to get the nod. Of course he didn't. Stevens played 60 minutes and Timon came on, so I couldn't call who was going to play left back. So I think if you were going to go anywhere, Hoover, but it's up to you if you want to pay 5.5 for a Stoke defender. I personally wouldn't. Midfield, Angus. I don't even know where I start here. There's quite a few. So Johnson, Chiquinho, and the new Portuguese lad, Vidigal, I think we're pronouncing him, coming at 6'5". Baker's injured at 6. Lawrence 5'5", and then Pearson's 5, but he's a defensive midfielder. Who catches your eye the most from that midfield, or if any?
The first two you mentioned, Daniel Johnson and Chiquinho. Chiquinho we've talked about. I hadn't seen a great deal of him, obviously because of the injury.
Yeah.
But I know he's been getting rave reviews for pre-season. As they said, sort of giving us the information, Wolves fans were very annoyed that he was allowed to go out on loan this season, which I normally use as a decent benchmark.
Yeah.
And so I'm interested to see him. I think he could be really good. He could be one of those where relatively early in the season he sort of comes in and stays there for a while. Daniel Johnson, we've seen him do well in the division before. So I think he's one that could very much be an option at times. He's previously played more so as a 10, so it'd be interesting to see how well he did playing in a midfield 3. But I think there's enough attacking ability there that he could be a good option at 6'5" as well.
No, I agree. On Chiquinho, the boy is electric. He played against Burton and Everton. He only had one training session before Burton, went straight in on the right wing, played right wing again. And he was on set pieces as well, which is interesting. He's got a very good delivery, so I think he could be a very good option at 6.5. He does look too good for the Championship. I've got a recall deal
for January.
So I would not be surprised if he's just here until January. Forwards, Dan. So at the moment, we've got here Campbell at 7, Brown 6'5", Gales at 6, and Emery Tesco at 5. Wesley, who's come in from Villa, and the Moroccan, what we calling him?
We're calling him May until we know how to pronounce it.
What price are them two going in at, Dan?
I think 6'5", both of them.
6'5", okay. Any options there then up front, do you think?
Well, Tyrese Campbell.
Yeah, 7 million. I think he's
Has
the
to
best
be.
one.
He's going to play out wide though, right?
He will do, especially now with Wesley coming in. I think Campbell will go from the left, Chiquinho from the right, and then there's, Jacob Brown. Jacob Brown's been playing there. He's not the best centre forward, but he's going to get minutes. I don't see where Dwight Gale's going to get minutes anymore, I'll be honest. And then Wesley is a target man, but I'm hearing from this May, he's more of a number 10, like behind the striker kind of forwards. So that will be interesting how we shape up. We've played 4-3-3 with 2 number 8s. Do we go to a 4-2-3-1 to accommodate him? I have no idea. He came on against Everton. That's about it. So that's a wait and see. But yeah, Campbell at 7 million. Still think there's better assets out there. But if he does find his form, he could be an asset. Anything else on Stoke before we move on?
I know they sort of went bold in their prediction, but I just wanted to say, because I know we were talking about this after the pod on Friday, and I obviously we hadn't seen this because this only came through today, but I said that I was picking Stoke as my sort of rogue team that could make a run at the playoffs. So I think there's reason for optimism. I'm not a big fan of Wesley, for example, but I think a lot of Stoke's additions have actually been good. So I think there is actually some reason for sort of encouragement and enthusiasm there.
Yeah, and Dan, you can stop.
Need a couple of centre backs. You need a couple of centre backs.
Yeah, I've read today actually. Alex Neil has said there should be one in before the weekend, and then once that one's been done and they can settle a little bit, they'll be adding one more centre back as well. So 2 centre backs will be in. But Rose, he played quite well against Everton on Saturday. He's tidy on the ball. He's not exceptional or anything, but he's a very good squad player. Regarding Wesley, I agree, and his goal scoring record's nothing to shout about. I don't think he'd be an asset, but I think he will benefit Chiquinho and Campbell. Just having someone there in the centre. Right, let's move on then. We're going to Coventry now. Last season finished 5th. And who's doing this, Angus? Who gave you the information?
So FPL Shake and Bake, Brett has given us this.
That's quite a good name. I'll give him that. Key outgoings.
Victor Gyökeres, obviously.
Yeah.
And then the lads they had on loan, the other main ones he's listed. So Callum Doyle, Luke McNally, and Brooke Norton-Cuffy.
Okay. Incomings.
Ellis Sims. Obviously, we saw in the division last year for half the season for Sunderland, and we've seen previously with a couple of teams. I think they brought him permanently from Everton. Tatsuhiro Sakamoto, he'd come in from Belgium. Jay De Silva is obviously coming from Bristol City. Joel Latibodia, who's coming from Swansea. Bobby Thomas coming from Burnley. Brad Collins from Barnsley. Milan van Ewijk from Heronvane and Lewis Binks from Bologna.
Okay. Likely lineup / formation.
So he thinks it's going to be a 3-4-2-1.
Yeah.
So he said Wilson in goal, Latabodiere, McFadzean, and Thomas is back three. Van Ewijk, Sheaf, Harmer, and Da Silva. Palmer and Sakamoto in support of Sims.
When's Aware fit? I
I did ask this because it wasn't mentioned. So bear with me just one moment. Likely to be back October, November time. But with the other players they've got, he did say with the other players they've got, the benefit of that is it enables them to ease him in a bit more as well.
No need to rush. What league position has he got for them?
If Harmer stays, because I'm sure we'll talk about him potentially leaving, 5th. If he goes 10th.
Wow.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I do as well. It's just, well, we'll discuss it in a minute. Best Gaffr assets?
So he said, despite being our highest profile signing to many neutral, I expect Ellis Sims to have a settling in period as we adjust to life without Gyökeres. So despite his championship record, may avoid him for the first couple of weeks. But I think he does think after that he will be a good asset. He's very excited about Sakamoto. He's come in. I think he has played wing back at times. Brett obviously thinks he will end up playing further forward. I think he is mainly a winger or an attacking mid, which is part of why he's been used at wing back. Apparently, in pre-season he's shown glimpses of being the sort of player that to have fans on the edge of their seat. There's a number of. I don't think he's done these in categories, so I can just go through all the assets, or
and then go on.
Because he hasn't sort of given them categories. He's also mentioned Casey Palmer, been impressive in pre-season.
Love a bit of Casey Palmer, I do.
He's got a few goals. I think he said 3 goals in 4 games. So and has played behind a front 2 in all of those. So I think the intention is clearly for him to play regularly. It's just whether he's up to that, as is always the question with Casey Palmer. Is 2 players who are definitely in his thinking are Bobby Thomas and Van Ewijk. They both give a goal threat from the back. Obviously, differently. Thomas more likely to be sort of set piece threat. Van Ewijk more likely to play as a wing back. So getting forward potentially. I think he had 6 goals in the Dutch league last year. So clearly has a little bit of threat about him. And then obviously the last one to mention is Gustavo Harmer. He said for him, he's the best midfielder in the league, but there's too many rumours about his future to take a risk on him. If he's still here in September, he'll be coming in though.
That's interesting. We'll talk about him because he's in my team at the moment, so I am really interested to talk about this. Right, straight into it then. Keepers, Brett's put Wilson there, who's 5.5. They have signed Collins from Barnsley, haven't they? And he's coming at 5 million. So
I've prepared for this with follow-up questions.
I want to know this answer.
So he said the keeper situation is an interesting one. Wilson has become a bit of a cult hero and was brilliant last season, but I think Collins will start as the number 1 as we look to be a more possession-based team. He also said that Wilson has missed a lot of pre-season with back spasms. Okay. So that could affect whether he sort of starts the season. He also said that there's been a bunch of rumours, depending on who you listen to. Wilson's either got back spasms or he's going to Luton, depending on who you listen to. So there's that too.
So that's interesting. It's a shame that Collins is coming at 5 then, because it kind of rules him out from myself, because I'm not going down that route with the keepers. But that could be quite interesting. Defence, so you've got the back 3 of, I can't say his name, from Swansea.
Latabodiere.
Yeah, you made that sound so easy. Yeah. and what was it, McFadzean again, and Thomas. Did you say? Okay. Thomas, where's he come from?
So he's come from Burnley. He was on loan at Barnsley last season.
That's why I don't know him then. He played in League One. That's fine. And then wing backs. Who were the wing backs that he had?
Van Ewijk,
yes,
and Da Silva.
So that's interesting. No Bidwell there then.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
I didn't ask about Bidwell. Sorry.
No, that's fine. He's 6 million anyway, so I don't like that. Dan, talk to me about the defensive assets then, because they've been popular with Gaffr managers over the last 2 seasons because they've always been cheap. They've had a bit of a price bump this season considering how well they did. What's your thoughts on them defensively in terms of Gaffr?
Well, they kept a lot of clean sheets last year, so I think once they settle uh, I have no reason to believe they'll be any different. Especially with, you could probably say that these players might be better than some of the players they had last year. They do start with a couple of tricky fixtures, so I think it's a good chance to just wait and see for a couple of games and then maybe jump in on game week 3 or 4.
Okay, midfielders Angus. So we know is going to be out until October, November. He's at a nice price if when he does come back at 7.5. We'll start with the big one, Hamer, 8.5 million. He's in my draft right now. Obviously linked with moves, but are you starting with him or thinking about starting with him?
No. So I was probably going to wait and see, particularly with those tough first couple of games anyway. But there's been so much talk about his future, and there's only so many players I'm already likely including a couple of players who are potential transfer risks. I don't want to be putting many more in. Robbins yesterday did say in his press conference after the game that there have been offers for Harmer, and no one had met the asking price yet, and he would rather sort of keep him around. But Harmer's also not signing a new contract at the moment, and seemed to suggest that he might be on his way if an offer good enough comes in.
Oh, that's really annoying because he's going to have to come up with my team. I can't start with that. I really can't start with that. That is really annoying. Not ideal at all. And
It also sounds like he's playing deeper again, though. Last year he was basically playing as one of the 10s.
Yeah, I think he's only played 1 or 2 of the games, or certainly only started 1 or 2 of the games, and he has played in the deeper role. I think he's on a lot of the set pieces though, which might help balance that out a little bit. But
okay, so if we put our favour then, starting, you've briefly discussed, they've got a tough start. Would that put you off, a Sakamoto? He's new to the league. From what I've read, quite exciting, but it's not worth the risk yet.
Not yet for me, because if he's going to be playing higher, I mean, even if he's playing as wing back, I think there's potential if he's playing as an attacking wing back for it still to be worthwhile for a midfielder. But I'd want to sort of wait and see on that. Casey Palmer, we know what he's capable of, and I think he will be on radar at times. When we start looking at Coventry for probably game week 3, he will be one that will be on radar at 6.5. Like it's a nice price. He will play sort of attacking midfield. We know that's what he'll do. So I think that's potentially interesting. And then Jamie Allen is the other one at that price. He's missed most of pre-season. He had a heart issue, I think, which they were having assessed for a while. So I think he's only even got back into training this week. So he won't be ready to start the season.
Who's the first? Is it Leicester, Middlesbrough, their first 2?
Yeah.
Yes, not an ideal start. I can tell you what's going to happen with Palmer. He's going to score in both of them games. I'm then going to buy him, and he'll be injured.
No. What will happen is he'll score in both those games, and about 85th minute of the second game, he'll pull his hamstring.
Yeah, something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
Such a shame his injury record, because I'm a big fan of his, and I think he could be a really good Gaffr asset if he played the majority of the season. Up front then, obviously, Gokaraz is gone. They've replaced him with Sims, who was on loan at Sunderland for the first half of last season. He's coming at 8.5. Is he worth that? Are you going to consider him? I know maybe not starting, we've discussed that, but is a potential throughout the season?
Well, I mean, I'll go first on that. I probably should say I'd consider him, given that on Planet FPL I picked him to win the Golden Boot.
Yes, you did, yeah.
Yeah, it's another one. Initially wanting to sort of see it play out, they've got those two tough games that enables me to sort of have a look at them. But I'm a big fan of him. I'm a fan of Coventry and what they've done with their business and the way the team is looking to set up. And I think it could be good for him as the focal point of that. So I do like him this season.
Okay, and Dan, you just say they played 2 up front. Did you say with Gordon? I'm assuming.
They've been playing in pre-season 2 up front. Brett said he thought it would ultimately be Palmer and Sakamoto in support of Sims.
Oh, okay. I thought we was 2 up front because Gordon's in at 7. He's always been an interesting one to me, Gordon has, even like throughout the years he's been in the Championship. We've known Gyökeres was the main man, but when Gordon was fit, he was on penalties as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
You know, he had a very good goal scoring record down in League One. Do you think he could be an option at 7, or is it just, Sims is the main man, just stick with that?
I think Sims will be the main man when he's another one of these players that has a decent run and then gets injured or something. But I think what you might find is similar to what they did last year, where they might change to maybe 1-10 with 2 strikers, or the harder game maybe have 2 10s behind 1 striker. And if they keep doing that, it'll be Godden that'll get rotated. So it'll just be a frustrating own, I think.
Right, okay. Right, that's Coventry then. So we're getting to the last 3 teams, and probably the most anticipated teams. It's going to be the 3 relegated clubs, and we're going to start with Southampton, who finished 20th last year in the Premier League. Angus, I'm going to be coming to you for these. Who's give us the information?
So it's Matt, who's a clean sheet wipeout.
Okay. Key outgoings.
He said Walcott, El Yunusi, Diallo, Orsic, and Caballero have all left so far. And he said he's also given sort of predictive things. So I'll put it here. He said in 2 different categories. Players that I expect to go as they aren't good enough or have been deemed surplus to requirements would be Onuachu, Chaleta Tsar, Liankau, and Salisu.
Okay, interesting.
And then he's also said, the other one, players that I would expect to leave but would love to stay and will depend on clubs stumping up the required market value would be Lavia, Livramento, Ward-Prowse, Walker-Peters, and Sulemana.
Interesting. He hasn't said Armstrong or Adams there. That's interesting. Key incomings then.
So obviously, I don't think he's mentioned, but I'll mention it for him. Russell Martin. He said Ryan Manning, who's obviously a left back, and Shea Charles, who's a defensive midfielder.
Okay, and what is predicted lineup?
So he reckons the lineup will be a variation on a 4-2-1-2-1 or a 4-3-3.
Okay.
So he's got Bazunu in goal.
Yeah.
Right to left, Walker Peters, Bednarek, Stevens, and Manning. Smallbone and James Ward-Prowse. With Alcaraz further forward, and then the 2 sort of, I guess, wider attackers, Dozy and Teller, with Adam Armstrong up front.
Strong team, that is. Where's he got them predicted to finish?
So he said it would be incredibly disappointing to not finish in the playoffs with the squad we are likely to have. So I'm going to say we finish second and be optimistic.
Nice, I like that. Best Gaffr assets?
So he said expecting Alcaraz, Teller, and Armstrong to have the most impact going forward, providing all 3 are still with the club at the start. Teller and Armstrong have good pedigree in the Championship and great attacking numbers, and I expect Alcaraz to cause plenty of problems. Ward-Prowse will chip in, as always, but likely to have a more defensive role if he does stay.
Interesting. Budget assets?
So he said Edozie could be good value at 8 million, depending on game time. And then he said Bree at 6.5 would be the cheapest of our likely playing fullbacks, but game time dependent on outgoings.
Okay, and then under the radar assets.
He said he hasn't been added to the Gaffr game as of yet, but Sam Amayor has been getting a lot of game time preseason and looks sharp. Appears that Martin is impressed and he could push the likes of a Dozy for a starting place, dependent on how he fares against championship opposition. He is only 17, but has signed his first professional contract and has slotted in well when given the opportunity.
Nice. Right, let's get into this team then. A lot of talking points here, and I'm definitely going to need your help on this because I did not watch much Premier League. I don't even think I watched Southampton once last year. So, keeper spot is secure. Is it Bizarnu?
Yeah.
Is he they signed him from Man City last year? Is
Yeah.
that him? Okay, so he's in at 6 and then McCarthy's 5.5. Defence, right. So we've discussed this basically for the last few weeks. There's 4 really good fullbacks there in Bree, Livramento, Kyle Walker-Peters and Manning. So on Saturday they played their last friendly, didn't they?
Yeah.
Who did they play? Was it AZ Alkmaar, was it?
It was, I think.
Was it, yeah. Right, and Manning played left back. Who started at right?
Livramento, wasn't it?
Livramento.
So let's just get into that conversation straight away. Who's the best fullback to have?
I think it's Ryan Manning.
Yeah, so he started, so that's a big...
Yeah, he started. Martin knows it. Martin knows he knows the way he wants to play as well. So I think that gives him a head start in that sort of sense.
Okay. The other side?
I have no idea.
It's not good.
I would lean Livramento, I think, but he could go.
Yeah.
I think it's crazy that they've got Livramento, Walker-Peters, and Breeze just sitting there who might casually just become first choice in about 1st of September or something.
Yes, it's not good. So obviously, Livramento, Walker-Peters and Manning are all 7 and Breeze 6.5. I discussed with you two before we started recording. I wasn't sure Manning would start the season, but after seeing him start on Saturday, I think he will start. So I've now put him in my draft over Livramento, just based on I know Manning's going to be there, where Livramento could go at any moment. So I don't like that. Centre backs, would we look at considering how strong they are in the full back department?
No.
Because you're paying premium prices as well, aren't you? So it's just
Yeah, and I think Matt was a little bit concerned about, particularly early on, clean sheets. We've talked about obviously the style of play, and I think they are looking to bring in centre backs accordingly, but they're sort of having to work out at the moment who the best centre backs are, of the bunch to play that system. I know Salisu is set to leave as well, so that will narrow down the options. But I just don't think it's worthwhile.
Okay, midfield then. So this could be quite interesting. So you said Ward, Prowse, and Smallbone as the centre midfielders.
Yeah.
So Smallbone's coming at 7, which could be good value, but if he's going to play a more deeper role and not on set pieces, kind of rules him out straight away, doesn't it? Really. Ward Prowse, we've spoke about him a number of times over the last few weeks. 11 million. He's nailed. If he's there, he's got to be in your team, really, hasn't he?
I think just from the fact he's a set piece wizard.
Exactly. So, but he could potentially leave. So, what are your thoughts if we get to Friday? Obviously, they are playing Friday night as well against Sheffield Wednesday. He hasn't left yet, but there's rumours of him leaving. What are you starting with him, or are you not having him?
I don't know.
This is really helpful for the listeners, but
probably, particularly because they're the Friday night game. I think that helps that they're the Friday night game.
Yeah, I think we'll get some kind of information where he's going to be, and then if he does end up leaving, the deadline's gone. He's played his game. We can transfer him out. because he's the most expensive midfielder, you can then afford anybody when you sell him. So then who did you have as the front three? You had Alcaraz,
So
Tower.
Alcaraz,
It's a 10.
Edozie and Teller. Alcaraz essentially is a 10, yeah, and Edozie and Teller sort of either side.
So obviously, well, we know about Tower from his spell, his loan spell at Burnley last year in the Championship. Alcaraz and Edozie, talk to me about them because I have no idea who they are.
Well, I'll take Alcaraz because I saw him live last season at the Emirates against Arsenal. Obviously, in the game they were 3-1 up and drew, but he massively impressed me. He gets about the pitch, but he's always looking to make things happen. He's quite proactive. He's always looking forward, whether it's can he get a shot, can he play a pass. He played an incredible through ball for, I think it was Theo Walcott to score, ironically. But he looks to have a lot about him, so I think he certainly could be a very good option.
Okay, and then Edozie.
Yeah, he's one of these youngsters who they signed. I think it was from Man City.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, he's very raw. He's a tricky winger, and I think he's one of those. If he gets in at 8 million, could be a bargain. I think.
Did these two play much last year?
No.
No. Okay, so that's probably why I haven't seen these mentioned when I've seen drafts on Twitter and stuff. I haven't seen these two, but it sounds promising, especially Alcaraz. You've really sold him on me. Would you like, so you've got Ward-Prowse, if you sold Ward-Prowse, would you look at Alcaraz?
He'd certainly be one of the main options I'd consider, yeah.
Would you be worried though that he drops deeper though, Alcaraz, or do you just think they'll maybe play small bone with Charles?
Yeah, so my guess would be Charles would step in that deeper role and Alcaraz would stay higher.
But like Smallbone's in that moment, but obviously Lavia is still there at the moment, heavily linked with Liverpool at the moment, which is more than likely going to happen. But if he stays, he starts surely.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if he's still there, then he'll start. I'm just writing him off. I don't see a world in which he's still there.
Yeah, no, I get that. And then, is there anything in the other players that we haven't mentioned? You've got Sulmana at 9.5.
I mean, he did very well. He looked really bright for them in the Premier League. He signed in January. They spent quite a bit of money on him. I get the impression there's quite a bit of interest in him, so he might well be one that leaves. If he's still there come the end of the window, he's someone I'd be very interested in. But given the chance that he leaves, I can't go there with him.
Okay, and then there's 3 other midfielders here. You got Gineppo at 8 million, Armstrong at 7.5, and then Aribo at 7. Are they getting anywhere near the starting 11?
I mean, in theory, we've seen Stuart Armstrong do it for Southampton for a number of years. Good player, versatile player as well. But I think he's probably, if he stays, going to be sort of, just a really good squad option.
Yeah.
And so I'd be a little bit worried about him. Gineppo.
Never rated him.
No, he sort of has these moments where he looks great and then he'll trip over the ball.
Yeah.
Aribo is obviously a player I'm a big fan of.
Was he from Rangers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And was obviously very highly rated when he was at Charlton. But there's been quite a bit of talk of him leaving. And I do think he'd probably be a backup to that initial 11. He's not getting in ahead of someone like Alcaraz, I don't think. So that would be enough to put me off as well.
Okay. Forwards then, Dan, I'll come to you first. 11 million, Che Adams, 10 million, Adam Armstrong. Start with them two first. Both of them obviously experienced of playing in the Championship. What's your thoughts there? Like, who gets the nod up front? Who's a better option?
So I had, as soon as the game launched, I had Adams in my side because I thought he would be first choice, and they might put Armstrong to the winger in or something. But it seems like with all the speculation, it looks more and more likely that Armstrong's going to start. So I've swapped out Adams for Armstrong at the minute.
Angus, your thoughts on them?
I've had Armstrong since the start. I think Armstrong started almost every friendly. So yeah, I'm still on Adam Armstrong.
He's got the armband for me for game week
Yeah.
1 as it stands at the moment. I think if I know he's definitely going to start, I can see goals because we know what he's like from when he's at Blackburn. He loves a shot.
Yeah,
He has
it's that
plenty
shot
of
volume
shots.
thing as well.
Yes.
So now we know that helps for bonus as well.
Even better, yeah. He's absolutely nailed now. So yeah, and then the other two strikers on the game, you got Onuachu and I don't know how to say his name.
Torpal.
That's
Cool.
Torpor, so 9 million.
Yeah.
Any chance of him getting a look in?
Matt said he seemed to think he's either like surplus to requirements or not good enough, and they were going to look to move him on. So I guess that answers that.
Yeah, you're not going nowhere near him then, especially at 9 million. And then Mara at 8.
He could be interesting if he gets in the team. He looked like bright at times in the Premier League last year. Another one of these young sort of forwards they brought in from France, I think, but not over Adams or Armstrong unless he sort of had a run in the team.
Okay, so just to summarise Southampton then, if you had to triple up on 3 Southampton players right now based on who's there, not transfer links, who would be the 3?
The 3 I've got in my team, I guess, Manning, Ward-Prowse and Armstrong.
Okay, Dan?
It's exactly the same.
Okay, good. Right, there's one of the relegated clubs done, unless you've got anything you need to add.
I think just a little bit on that briefly with the fullbacks is we were obviously saying Manning. I think if people have a strong feeling about, like, for example, Livramento or even Walker Peters, by all means go with them because if we're getting it from one person's opinion, we're giving our opinions. It's not necessarily guaranteed. So if you have a particularly strong feeling that one of them's going to play or whatever, then they're all likely to be good options if they play. So go with what you think.
Yeah, I think you spot on there. I think because we've been so big on Manning, well, especially more you two, it could easily influence people, but we aren't saying the other two are bad options. It's just the uncertainty into it, and hence me putting Manning in my team today. I think if Livramento stays, he'd be the best option. But the uncertainty of that, I've gone safe because I know Manning's going to be there. But yeah, good point, Angus. We're going to go to Leeds now. So they finished 19th last season, and this is you, Dan. So who gave us the information?
Well, he's in our WhatsApp group. He's called Jordan. I'm not sure if he's got a Twitter handle or anything like that.
Do you know Angus? I don't actually.
I
just know Rob Picks, mate. That's it.
Yeah. I've lost track of it. It's Jordan. His name's Jordan Williams. It's Jordan B. Will 92.
Okay, brilliant. Key outgoings then, Angus. Dan.
Yeah, so Rodrigo, centre forwards, Robin Koch, Tyler Roberts. I'm not sure that's key. Brennan Harrison, Rasmus Christiansen, Mark Rocker, and Weston McKennie's loan ended. So they seem to have just got rid of a lot of their players on loans. A lot of them had like clauses where they were allowed to leave on loan.
Okay. What about incomings?
Yeah, it's been a bit slower. Only a couple. Ethan Ampadu. We've seen him for years playing, and he's finally left Chelsea. He's one of those that had about 4 years out on loan. And Carl Darlow, who's I think signed yesterday from Newcastle. So I'm guessing he's going to fight Meslier for first choice goalie.
Okay, and what's the likely lineup/formation?
So this has changed numerous times, including today. But he thinks it's going to be Meslier in goal just because Darlow's just signed, but Darlow could easily just come straight in. Ayling right back because Drame's apparently got an injury. Centre backs are Cooper and is it Strayek?
Strauk.
Trauk. Left back, he's not too sure because basically they keep naming Sam Byram on the team sheet, but he's not actually been offered a contract at the minute, so I'm not sure if he's going to play. If not, it might be Leo Hjelde, who had a spell at Rotherham last year. It'll then be Ampadu, and he thinks young Archie Gray will play centre mid, who's not even in the game at the minute. And then he thinks Sinistera and Dan James will definitely play. And he thinks Somerville will as well.
So
And
is this
then,
like a 4-2-3-1?
yeah. And then he thought Bamford was going to start, but typical Bamford has decided to get injured in the friendly today's. And it looked like Rutter went off injured as well.
Yep.
So at this point, they might ring me up and I might play up front.
What league position has he got them to finish?
I think it was second behind Leicester.
Fair, okay. Best Gaffr assets?
Hang on, I've got to scroll up. We've been talking so much. He thinks Sinistera, as he's going to be nailed, I think.
Okay, 9 million midfielder. What about budget?
He's put maybe one of the young centre mids, so like a probably Gray, who's not been priced, but yeah,
Okay.
we don't know the price. I think it'll be about 5-5. I think.
Yeah. What about under the radar assets?
He's not really selling under the radar.
Okay, well, let's get into the team then. So we'll start in goal. Mesley's still there. He's coming in at 6 million. And then Darlow's signed. What's Darlow going in at?
6 million.
6 million as well. So I think Mez has got playing goal. If he's still there, you'd think he'd be number one, wouldn't you? And then if he leaves, Darlow's fit and ready to be like step in for him. But you're not going to pay 6 million though for the keeper, are you? No.
No, I don't think so.
Right, let's get into the defence. And so it's a back four then, we think.
Yeah.
So we'll start at right back then. Ayling's played today. We're recording this on Sunday the 30th of July. He played today against Hearts because Drama hasn't played the last two, is it? Because of a injury. But then, Angus, am I right in saying there's rumours that he basically wants out? Is that true?
Yeah, that's what some people have said, and so there's sort of a little bit of debate, I think, even among Leeds fans about whether he's actually injured or whether it's a, player wants to leave, so we're leaving him out injury.
Right, okay. Which is annoying because the Twitter template, let's say, Drama's right in there into 6 million. A lot of doubt now, so I took him out. Ayling, would you consider him as an alternative option if he's going to play there at right back?
Not for me.
No. Dan?
They got really good fixtures, and he'd probably be guaranteed. Maybe. I'm not saying I wouldn't.
Okay, let me just ask you a question then. Let's just say Drama's not in contention to play. Do you want a Leeds defensive asset to start the season?
Oh, I'm not even sure. I'm so up in the air.
Ideally speaking, yes.
Yes,
Ideally
I
speaking,
think
yes.
so.
So if you had to pick one now, then who would it be? If you're not keen on Ayling, we're not too sure who's going to play left back, and I doubt you'd want Cooper or Sturridge, whatever you say his name. But he is 5.5, Sturridge.
Yeah, I still wouldn't.
No?
No. I think it would be Ayling, which it sounds absolutely bonkers, really.
Well, he scored against Hearts today. So, I'm struggling here because I wanted a lead answer.
So
You're not
I
helping me here.
suppose I've sat here in silence. There's two defenders I'm now looking at.
Okay.
Pascal Struijk
Yeah.
and Leo Hjelde.
So Hjelde's 5 million, and so there's potential you're going to play left back, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, I need a bit more on that on him if I was going to consider him. Obviously,
Yeah.
5 million get in, but
Yeah.
we need to know if he's actually going to play there, don't we?
Yeah. So I think the main one for me would be that I'm genuinely considering going to is Struijk.
But is he going to play centre back though?
He can play centre back or left back. So I think that's the other thing with him is the likelihood to play.
What happens if they sign Byron? Because he's not been down as a trialist. They've actually named him, so you get the he's probably signing. I'd gather, right?
Yeah, he's Sam Byram.
I know, but if you're willing to have Hjelde, right, who's quite unproven, really.
Yeah, no, Hjelde, it's because he started at left back today. So that automatic in the final friendly. So that obviously, it's then in my mind sort of recency bias, like, 5 million defender who started for Leeds, he could play. But I think realistically, I'm not going to go with him because, as we've said, no guarantees he played. Come the first game, I wouldn't be shocked if we rule out some of the ones who are either already gone or whatever, or potentially going. It could easily be, Ayling right back, Cresswell and Cooper centre back, Struijk left back.
Is Junior Firpo still there?
Allegedly.
He hasn't. So is there a chance he could play? Because he is a left back, isn't he?
I hope not.
But is there an actual chance though? I generally don't know if he's in. I don't know.
I don't think so, but I don't know.
I'm going to be honest. There's too much doubt in this for me to even go here.
Yeah, that's why I sort of said ideally with the defensive asset, and it's why, I get the appeal of Ayling. My problem is he's Luke Ayling, but I do get the appeal.
No, yeah, I get that, but then I'm just thinking a fullback for Leeds.
Yeah. But that's why, for me, I think if I'm going to go with a Leeds defender, it will be Struijk, just because I know he'll play. Which position, I'm less sure, but I'm confident enough that he will play that I'd be inclined to go with him, but I don't love it.
So in terms of nailed, before we move on to midfield, you're probably looking at Ayling and Cooper. Would they be the nailed two? Cooper being captain.
In theory, I think Struijk is nailed.
Okay.
It's just where he's going to play at times, because even in the Premier League, he played left back at times. So I think I'd certainly say he's nailed. Whether Leeds fans would agree, they can let us know. But otherwise it's Ayling and Cooper.
Do you think Ayling is nailed though if Drame's there?
Well, if Drama isn't playing, who's going to play right back other than Ayling?
Yeah.
That's all.
If Drama's suddenly available again, whether this is an actual injury or a made-up injury, if he's back available, then there is a question there.
So basically, we know what's going to happen. He's actually been injured and he's going to play game week 1, but we've all took him out of the team because we're doubting it.
Yeah.
Basically, brilliant. That's all I need just before game week 1. Right, midfield. I can't even remember what you said now because I've just been concentrating on the defenders. What's the likely midfield?
So Ampadu and he thinks Young Gray in centre mid, but they're going to be sitting. and then it's going to be. He thinks it's going to be definitely Sinistera and James, and he thinks Somerville will get the nod as well.
Right, okay, so Gnotto at 10 million and Harrison 9.5. I know I saw rumours on Harrison that he didn't come back to training, he wants to move or whatever. Is that the case?
I think he's injured, is he?
Or is he, injured?
Injured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's so. We'll rule Harrison out. What about Gnotto then? Is he the Italian?
Yeah.
What, is he being linked away?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that
I think there's been
likely to
quite a
happen?
few links with him, sort of just various places. Keeps being linked with Everton, but I don't think Everton have enough money to buy him. So
He has been in the squad though, Nonto,
Yeah.
but
Has he?
so he's obviously not refusing to play or anything like that. He's
Okay, so Sinister, talk to me about him because I've seen a lot of talk about him over the last few days. He's 9 million in the game. What kind of player is he?
So he's sort of an attacking wide player, primarily on the right. Will go at players. Decent end product as well. Brought in, I believe, from Feyenoord. And he was one of the main ones that I thought would probably go because he'd be too good for the division and there'd be demand for him. But he seems the one most likely to stay. He has that sort of top level quality, I think. So particularly in one of the best teams in the division, where you can get someone who has shown previously they look like they have that top level quality. I think it's tough to look past that.
Is he right or left sided?
Right.
So we're talking James on the left then.
I think so.
Yeah. What do you think about James? Because obviously, he's played in the league before at Swansea before he went to Man United. What price is he coming in at that? 8 million, so he's $1 million cheaper than Sinistera. Is he an option?
I guess so. It's tough with Dan James in terms of particularly end product. Hasn't necessarily developed the way people would have hoped. But he's still rapid, and he will, let's say, try hard. I don't mean this as sort of like, one of these players that's not very good, but you could say, but at least they'll try hard. He will keep going the whole time he's on the pitch. And so I think that helps his likelihood of being involved in sort of attacking returns and everything. I think he's potentially an option if he's going to start, in part because he's 8 million.
Yeah. Yeah, he's that little bit cheaper. Somerville then, so I'm guessing he's going to be playing as the 10 likely.
I believe so. I don't know if Dan has an idea of which way round these would be.
let me just have a look, see if he's put anything.
While Dan's looking at that, have you got it?
Let me just find.
I'll come back to you on that one.
Yeah, Somerville in the 10.
Okay. What about him as an option then? Because he is coming in at 8.5, so he's in between James and Sinistera. Is he an asset that we could potentially look at?
I think so, but I think there might be a bit more competition in that 10. I know Rutter got injured, but he can play there, and you do still have Gelhardt about who can also play there as well. So I think if I was going to go, I'd pay the 9 million and get Sinistera, I think, out of the three.
Okay, and then a few players that we haven't mentioned, price cheaper, probably more squad players. You've got Greenwood, Vader, Tyler Adams at 6, Shackleton at 5.5. Then who's Sousa Azevedo something?
Matel da Costa.
Oh, okay. I know what Da Costa is. Are any of them likely to get anywhere near that starting 11? Or do you think they're squad players? I think Tyler Adams will probably leave, won't he?
Yeah, I think that's the thing, though, isn't it? Tyler Adams, I think he's injured to start the season, but very much sort of a deeper lying midfielder, so I don't think you'd be looking at him in terms of Gaffr.
Okay. Forwards, bit of a nightmare because Bamford and Rutter both went off injured today against Arts. So that leaves Geldart at 7.5. Do you think they're more likely to bring someone in? Because we don't know the extent of these injuries yet, do we?
Yeah, I think that sort of affects it. I know they've sort of been talked about as wanting a striker, particularly after Rodrigo left as well. So I don't know whether this sort of accelerates their trying to get a striker, for example.
Yeah. What about you, Dan? What do you think?
Yeah, it was annoying because I was going to start with Bamford. I know he can be unpredictable, but if he gets a chance with their fixtures, you'd think he keeps getting so many chances, he'll put one away. And yeah, that was a bit annoying because it's sort of thrown everything up in the air. Really, you just got to hope that you might find something out. But I think they play on Sunday, which isn't very helpful either. So they might not even have like the press conference before the start, the deadline. So yeah, at the minute I've got Bamford in there, and he's my only Leeds. So I might even not have any Leeds at all, which sounds absolutely ridiculous with the fixtures. But
Yeah, well, I think we
yeah,
need to see on the injuries, but he did look like it was an hamstring injury how he pulled up because I thought he looked like he nearly got
yeah.
kicked in the head, but he did manage to walk off, well, kind of like limp a bit, but we'll find out. But from a Gaffr point of view, talking about Leeds, it sounds like a proper shit show. I'll be honest, where I don't know if I won't go anywhere near him because I have no idea.
I think there's a few. In all seriousness, I think it does depend on the Bamford and Rutter injuries. Like I know there was some speculation from some Leeds fans that Bamford might have gone off as a precaution because Rutter had already gone off injured. Which obviously, if that's the case, that obviously helps. I think if people want to go with a defensive asset, I think there's two. One is Luke Ayling.
Yeah.
I won't go there, but I can see the logic. The other one is Ethan Ampadu. We haven't really talked about him, but he's a 6 million defender playing in midfield. Yes, he's not necessarily going to be particularly attacking, but he's going to play.
Yeah, and so being classed as a defender, you'll get the clean sheets as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a good point, actually. We didn't discuss him.
We'll get a few bookings though as well if I know Ethan Ampadu.
Yeah. And then I think in the attack, if one of those strikers is fit, it's particularly of the two. If only one of Bamford and Rutter is fit, that's even better because if you have any question mark over which one of them is going to start, if only one of them is fit, that helps.
Yeah.
Personally, of the midfielders, it would be Sinistera or Dan James for me.
Okay, right. Let's move on to the last team then, because this one's been a long one, because there's been so many talking points, especially from the relegated sides. Leicester finished 18th last year. Dan, who gives the information for Leicester?
I think it's Sam. I don't know. You got the information.
Yeah, I just checked it. It's Sam Martin on Twitter, so Samuel Martin.
Yeah, I've got
it. He's given us that
Yeah.
then. So what are the key outgoings?
Madison and Barnes are the key ones. Obviously, they did release a lot of players who were out of contract, like Sianchu, Perez, and a few others. But Madison and Barnes are the headline ones.
Okay, and then the key incomings.
So the manager, Maresca, he's part of the Pep school, so should do quite well. They've then got Harry Winks, Connor Cody, and Callum Doyle, who we saw at Coventry last year, very highly rated youngster. And they brought in the goalie, Hermansen, as well.
Okay. What's the likely lineup/formation?
He said it's hard to know. but prior to Cody's injury, it looked like it was going to be a back three with Ricardo inverting, similar to what Pep was, what Pep has been doing with like Stones and Walker and that. And we did watch a game, didn't we, Jamie? And it was
Northampton game.
Cody was in the middle with Doyle left. Is it Foes right?
Fast.
Yeah.
That's right.
Side, yeah.
And then, like he mentioned, Ricardo was dropping into DM with
Harry
Winks, and Castagna was basically right wing. They had the young lad. Is it Marcel?
Marcel and something like that. The Portuguese lad.
Yeah, playing left wing. But the interesting was they had the two box to box midfielders, or the eights were getting quite a lot of chances in centre mid, which was Dewsbury Hall and Pratt, and they did play Vardy. But today they had a match, and a few of those players weren't even in the squad. So Faz wasn't, Pratt wasn't, Cody's obviously out for a while, I think. So it's sort of thrown everything in the air to the point where Castagna was playing in the back three, and Albrighton was playing on the wing. So yeah, it's sort of thrown everything up in the air. But it does look like they are going to be playing this Pep thing with three at the back, with one of the fullbacks inverting into DM.
Is Sam give us any more on what I know he said it's difficult to sell at the moment. Has he put anything else for the likely lineup?
No, he didn't. No.
No. Okay. What position has Sam got them to finish?
He thinks if everything ticks, there's no reason why they can't win the league.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Best Gaffr assets?
He thinks Ricardo could be a good option, but I'm not convinced by that if he is coming into DM, because he's just not going to get forward enough.
Okay. Budget?
He thinks Daka at 9.5 could be, if Iniacho leaves, Daka might play up front through the middle, and might get more minutes than Vardy.
Okay, interesting. And then under the radar?
He's put Luke Thomas. I think he's 5.5.
Yes, yeah, 5.5 defender.
And he has also mentioned Casey McAteer, who's a youngster who's done quite well in pre-season. That's probably another one that needs to be added to the game, I think. He played left wing today.
Okay, interesting. Right, let's get into the team then. So obviously there's quite a few keepers. They signed Hermansen, but they've got Ward and Everson there, and Smithies as well. Is Hermansen, do you think, come in to be number one?
Yeah, I think so. And he seemed very good at playing out from the back from what I saw today in the friendly. So I can see why he's going to be first choice over Everson and Ward.
Okay, well, all three of them have come in at 6 million, so we're probably not going to spend that. Right, defence then. If we're looking at this system, Angus, I'll go through from the most expensive. So Castagna, 7 million. Obviously played on the wing against Northampton. Played in a back three today against Liverpool. Rumoured to be leaving. What are your thoughts on Castagna at 7?
I've gone back and forth a lot on Castagna, so I avoided him to start off with.
Yeah.
Then I've brought him into my team, and now I don't know whether he'll be in my team like tomorrow, let alone the deadline. If I knew he was going to play winger, even if he was potentially going to leave, if I knew until he left he was going to play as a winger, I'd have him in, no problem.
Yeah.
If he's going to play in the back three, I don't want him anywhere near my team. So it's really tough at the moment with him.
Yeah, no, I'm on the same lines. He's 7 million as well. So if he's playing right wing, I'd start him, and if he left, I can move to anybody anyway because he's the most expensive defender. 6.5s. There's two, Justin and Pereira. So I'm going to come to Angus on this, Dan, because you've already mentioned it already. Pereira's likely to play the inverted role, so he's not going to attack much. So is that going to impact the bonus then a lot, do you think?
As far as I can tell, yeah, because he's not getting forward, getting crosses in, that sort of thing. So it limits him in that way.
So you're then paying 6.5 for basically clean sheets, aren't you?
Yeah, basically minutes and, that he's going to play and then sort of the clean sheets.
Okay. You've got Justin at 6.5, who I don't think's nailed, is he? There's a chance
No,
he'll
not
come
for me.
in if Castagna goes. Christensen on the other side, 6 million. What do you think about him?
Probably going to be a backup. So, if he plays, I think he could be decent. I think he was viewed as a potentially interesting attacking fullback, but I don't think I'd be going near him.
Okay. Dan, in terms of the centre backs, I know we favour full backs in this game, but you've got Suter, Faz, Cody, and Doyle all at 6, and then Vestergaard at 5.5. Now I know Vestergaard played today; he's 0.5. But would you consider any of them as centre backs?
Probably not. The one player would be Suter maybe, but he doesn't look like he's going to start just from like set pieces and things like that. But it doesn't look like Suter's nailed to start. So yeah, I'm not interested with the centre back.
Who do you think would be the three if they did start though? Is it if Cody's injured? Is it? I thought Faz looks quite nailed on the right hand side, Doyle on the left side, and then Suter might get a chance now if Cody's injured. Do you think?
Well, I'd be playing him over Cody anyway, but that's another story. But I don't get why they wouldn't play Suter today over Vestergaard if he wasn't
Yeah, or
if
even
he was going to
Castagna
play.
if Castagna was playing as a right centre
Yeah,
back. It's interesting. I know Sam did mention Thomas 5.5. He's been away with England, come back now. Do you think there's potentially a spot for him, especially if Castagna leaves?
I'm not sure because I'm not sure. For example, today they had Pereira inverting from the left. Well, that's Thomas' position today.
Interesting. So, with Leicester as well, what I found with pre-season, it's been quite difficult to get information. They've had a lot of behind closed doors games where they haven't released anything regarding the team, and we've had to find it from
Yeah,
fans on Twitter and stuff like that. So it is pretty difficult. In terms of midfield, Angus, we know Winks coming in at 6 million. He's definitely probably going to play that defensive mid role, dictate the tempo of the passing. But they've also got Ndidi there and Samare. Is he a defensive midfielder, Samare?
I think he was theoretically sort of a box to box when they bought him, but has generally played deeper.
Okay. So then, as the number 8, then Drewsbury Hall at 7.5 million. Pratt at 6. Really, would you say those two are the main two to get them two positions?
and
I'd
Didi's
guess
played.
so. Oh, and did he? Yeah.
Yeah, but I've seen his finishing it. I don't back that one. But he is obviously there as a squad, and probably say Samari. Then indeed, Samari is the backup to Pratt and Dewsbury. Or would you say?
Yeah, probably.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Obviously, the young Portuguese lad needs to be added into the game. He's been playing a bit on the left wing. Albrighton at 6.5 is a right winger. I wouldn't say he's going to be nailed all season, would you?
No, I don't think so.
No. So in terms of midfield, then Dewsbury at 7.5. Is there anyone that even tickles your fancy? Is that
Well,
even a
you
phrase? Like a phrase that? Or like
Yes.
it is
yeah,
actually
it
a
is,
phrase.
yeah.
So yeah, midfield. Is there any of them there that tickle your fancy?
But you said previously you liked Pratt, but he was injured or he didn't play. He wasn't in the squad today, so
Yeah, I think I'll be honest. In that system for Leicester, I'd like anybody who's playing as number 8. So even like
yeah,
let's say Ndidi, he's not known for his finishing, but that game against Northampton, he was getting forward and he was getting into the box and having chances. So I think it's more based on the actual position rather than the player. So Dewsbury Hall for me is nailed 7.5, 100% in my team. And if I found out Pratt was going to start, yeah, I'd consider it.
yeah.
But then up front, it's a bit of a minefield. So we've got Pratt, Iheanacho 11.5, Vardy at 10, Daka at 9.5. In them friendlies, Daka did play when he came on. He played from the left, and then Iheanacho came on for Vardy through the centre.
But Daka started today up front.
Yeah, so I know Angus has mentioned before Iheanacho is probably going to leave if an offer comes in, which I completely agree with. Vardy, his age. We talk about can he play Tuesday, Saturday, but there is actually I think there's only 8 midweek fixtures this season, so it's not every week you're doing that. Could Vardy become an option then, or would you start with Iheanacho? I generally don't know where you'd go here.
I think it's difficult, but Vardy did start the early preseason games, and it looks like he's picked up a niggle or something. So he was obviously. I think he's going to stay in Vardy. He's not going to go. I don't
Yeah,
think so. Um, I think he would have started the season if he was fit, but it's all up in the air now with his injury.
Angus, do you think he'd start like if he was fit over Iheanacho?
I think that's what pre-season would tell us at the very least,
Yeah,
that Vardy would be the first choice.
interesting. So just summarise Leicester then. Who the players you're looking at?
Um, Defensively is a mess, but I think Castagne. I'd still say Pereira, particularly because he's going to play. Maybe one of the centre backs, but I think those are probably the main two. Dewsbury Hall is the only mid for me. And then I think, again, it's similar to the Southampton fullbacks. If you have a particularly strong lean opinion on which one of the strikers is going to start, then I'd go with that.
Yeah, you can make a case for all 3, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Dan, what about you?
Yeah, I think unless Castagne's gone, he's going to be in my team, and I'm just going to risk he's going to play further forward. And if it looks like he's not, then you can downgrade to anyone. Um, Dewsbury Hall hasn't left my side; he's been in my team, and I'd like to find out if it wasn't Castagna, who's going to play on the wings, because similar to Man City, that they create a lot of chances. So I think at times, I know they're going to be signing probably wingers, but I think throughout the season it's worth keeping an eye on the wingers as well.
What price is the Marcel, that young Portuguese lad, coming in at?
6 million.
6 million. Do you think he'll get minutes? Even on that left hand side?
I
Oh,
think he.
I suppose we should mention at this point they've almost agreed a deal to bring Steffi Mavididi in from one of the teams in France.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I can't remember which one. I know nothing about him, I won't lie. So.
Came through at Arsenal, played a lot as a forward through the middle, but can play from the left as well. So I would assume he's coming in as the Harvey Barnes replacement on the left.
Okay, so he's one to look out for then, because would want another attacking midfielder from Leicester. Is there anything else to cover on Leicester before we wrap up this podcast?
No.
No. I think, it's been difficult. This pod's gone, nearly 2 hours now. There's just so much uncertainty around those three relegated sides. And, we want to maximise the players we have from them, don't we? It's just really difficult to know who's going to start and stuff. So hopefully this week, we're on Sunday night now, before Friday, we get a bit more information that can make our decisions a bit easier. But hopefully we've done enough for the listeners in discussing them. Obviously, we're not Mystic Meg. We don't know either. We're just giving our best opinions on it. So hopefully that did help. But shall we wrap it up there?
Yeah,
I think given how long it's gone, we probably should.
Yes, and it has gone 11:30 p.m. now. I'm getting very tired. So yeah, as we've discussed on the last two parts, no more podcasts coming out now this week before deadline. Friday the 4th, 5 p.m. UK time, we will be doing a Spaces, and that will be from the pod account. So make sure you're following EFL_fantasy on Twitter. We'll do that 5 till 6. Anybody's more than welcome to come on and have a chat with us. Just discuss everything really, or if you just rather listen, that is absolutely fine. But please do come and join us for that. Angus, I'm assuming once the press conferences come at the end of the week, you will be on injury duty.
Yeah, so
See the
Friday afternoon, I will sort of tweet out a roundup, and the sheet will also be updated. One thing I will ask, particularly because I know we've got some new listeners, new followers this season, please don't ask me when the injury roundup is coming or whether it's done or whatever, because quite apart from anything else, replying to you makes it take longer to do.
Yeah. Basically, Angus, he doesn't all just come at one time. He's got to wait for all the press conferences throughout the day. And once they're done, he will update us as soon as he can. So, yeah, he said it in a polite way. I'd say it is stop being annoying little fucks and wait. That's how I'd say it. But yeah, that is a wrap up on the pod. I hope these 3 podcasts have been insightful, helpful, whatever, and you've enjoyed them. It's been a blast to record. Yeah, and we'll see you ready for game week 1. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.